What's up, guys? It's Mr. Janvin, and today we are back on the Pokemon Showdown server, and we have a previous legend of the, actually one of the original, if not the original, player that inspired the rewrite of my Pokemon book that's coming out very soon, and yeah, he was the original sort of applier of the lessons, and because of that he went from what was it, like, maybe 1300 to 1700 back when it was hard. Like, this was in 2020, I think, mid 2020, and really sparked
2020, 1100 to 1700.
In what, 10 days was it?
10 days.
And so that was the first time that it ever happened. Since then, obviously, there have been several. He was the original 4-minute mile, but since then, several records have been shattered. I've seen some crazy things from this information. But if you want to see that, I believe we did it on the Contrary episode, which is my Pokemon podcast, and you can see that, and we broke down all the lessons. But today, we're gonna have a shorter session. He's currently, give them a rundown of what you've been enduring and what you're looking to learn and achieve.
Sure. Hey guys, it's SD. Most of the academy would know who I am, but yeah, as we alluded to earlier, I went from 1100 to 1700, and I played in a few tours, and I was quite successful. Met a lot of really great people. Learned a lot from from Devon. He's taken me under his wing since day one, which I do really appreciate. For me, I sort of took a break from the game after I didn't play as well as I hoped in the second season of ADPL. So I took probably a 6-month break, and life happened. Like, I bought a house and moving and all that sort of stuff, but didn't have internet and all the rest of it. But I got back into the swing of things, and I just picked up pretty much straight where I left off. But I was just taking ages to hit my goal of top 100. I was just really struggling. I spoke with a few people about it, but I was finding that I was just sort of fluctuating anywhere between like 1550 to 1750. I'd probably play 3 to 4 hour sessions, probably four or 5 times a week, and I was just not making progress. I did eventually crack the 1800, got top 100 with a team I built myself, which Devon taught me how to build as well, which was just phenomenal for me. I guess for me now, I want to be consistent at the top. I don't want to be someone that fluctuates anymore. I just want to be, if I want to get to number 1, I'll get to number 1, and everybody can get out of my way. In team tours and stuff is, I want to be always underpriced, always. I want to be able to beat everybody. Humbly, I say that, but I just want to be consistent where people know what they're going to get. If they want to pay top dollar for me, they know they're going to get a good teammate and good games. So it's that consistency factor. I spoke with Devon about this. He wants me to, he's started to help me break down high-level gameplay. So I've watched some of his tour matches and MPOs as well, and even just play against some of those top-tier players a bit more frequently, and then save the replays and fully break them down, because it's a completely different thing. It feels like is that you play around 1600 and all that, and it's like, you're playing against competent people, but there's another level I feel that I'm not close to, if that makes any sense at all. For example, Deej from the Academy. I watch some of his videos, and some of the stuff that he says just blows my mind. I don't understand how people can think like that. Joey's the same. But yeah, I guess that's where that all stems from.
Okay, good. Yeah, so we're gonna hop right into it. I won't, for sake of time, I'm going to more so speaking to the audience. I'm gonna kind of just jump right into it. And so SD acquired this session because he won something. I don't remember what it was, but the point is he won something, and so we're going to have a complimentary thing. If anybody in the audience wants to work with me as well, the link will be in the description down below. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to pause. Alright guys, so this is going to be some shit you might have never seen anywhere else. Again, speaking more so to the audience, I'm not sure if SD has. But this is something that is going to revolutionize all competitive gaming as we know it. I'm just working on the back end stuff to make that possible, but trust me when I say this. So, firstly, let's describe the issue SD is having. He said, inconsistency. Everybody that's struggling right now, if you're not getting the results you want, it's because you don't know something you need to, right? And that's called a blind spot. There's something you need to see that you can't see on your own, right? So think about what a blind spot is when you're driving, right? It's an area of your car where if you just use your mirrors, you still, no matter how much you move the mirrors, or in theory, that's just an area that you're not going to be able to see through traditional means. So if you're currently a player who you're just inconsistent, you're super frustrated, you're not sure what you're doing incorrectly, you have one and likely several blind spots. And the more blind spots, like my job, why people come to me is I fix their blind spot. I point it out and give them the solution immediately, because I've done this for so long. So I see it and then give them the solution immediately, and then that's what leads to these 100, 200 point jumps, 300 point jumps within a short period of time. It's like, oh, that was the issue. It's just like a doctor saying, oh, well, your pain in your leg is because of this, take this, or take this out of your diet, and you feel amazing a week later. So I'm going to do a more macro analysis of what the issue could be, so that anybody who is having any problems anywhere in competitive Pokemon, in any competitive game, can get the benefit. Then I'm going to specify it to Mons. So the first thing I'm going to break down is what I call the Trinity. And this is the reason why every player is successful, no matter what competitive game they're playing. And game doesn't just mean video game, it means any game they're playing. So there's the player, there's the game, and then actually a newer version of the name, it's the avatar / vehicle, but I'll just put avatar for now. So the player component represents who the person is. So in this case, we're going to use SD. The game, in this case, is going to be Pokemon. And the avatar is well, actually, I don't know if it's too personal, then let me know. But what's your like your first name?
Levi.
Levi. Okay. I wanna separate SD from Levi. Cool name, by the way. Reminds me of the Attack on Titan guy. But I don't know if you've seen that.
That's what everybody says when they hear my name. I've started watching it now, to be honest. I've been told I need to for years. I just haven't done it.
Probably because of that reason. It's a good character to be associated with.
Pleased to hear that.
Yeah, like he's like a top dog in that show. So Levi versus Pokemon, and when Levi inserts himself with Pokemon, he becomes SD, right? So SD is your avatar, for all intensive purposes, and we'll explain what the vehicle is in a sec. So the player part represents who you are as a person, who you are as a man, your attributes. So are you impatient? Are you inconsistent? Are you lazy? Are you hardworking? Are you easily distracted? Are you easily focused? Are you know, all the traits that develop you, that encompass you as a person, right? That's your character. That's who you are. That is your brain. Whatever term clicks for whoever is listening, that is who you are when you're not playing a game. When you're by yourself, who are you? Now, whenever we play a game, we inject who we are into the game. So let's take two twins. Let's say you had a twin brother, right? One's name, you know, you're Levi, and his name is, you know, Henry, right? And so let's say that you have the traits of impatience, big ego, and inconsistency, and he has the opposite traits. So he is patient, you know, not humble in terms of like he views himself lowly, but you know, not super braggadocious, and he stays consistent with the things that he does. So let's say that you guys have the same potential to be good at, let's use Pokemon in this example. Because you guys have both of you guys have different character, you're different traits, you have a different brain in how you move through the world, you have different traits, right? When you both play the same game, you guys are going to have different results. Because what really matters is the player. That's the most important level. This is what we refer to as mindset. This is about 80%. I'll lowball it a little bit. It's about 70% of the reason you're successful at any game, no matter what the game. Now, some people naturally have a healthier mindset than others because of childhood or, you know, and all that. But this isn't 70% of the reason. Then you have the game component, which is called skill set. Let's say this is maybe 20%. Right, 20%, give or take, 25%. And so if your twin brother has a better, healthier mindset than you, you will get better results more consistently, even though both of you guys have the same genetic material, like you have the same talent. You're twins, right? So even though you have the same amount of talent, because his mindset is superior to yours, he does better. And the example I always give is, let's say I have 3 players, and I say, and they all come to me and they say, Jam, you know, how do I get to top 10? I said, okay, play 10 games a day for a week and come back to me. It's like, okay. Player 1 plays 10 games a day, loses all 10, and concludes, I lost all 10 games, but I know I'm going to get better over time, so I'm going to continue to play. And so he plays all his 10 games, right, every day, even though he lost every game. Player 2 plays 10 games, loses all 10, concludes, this is why I'm never going to be good at this. It's probably wasting my time. And so stops playing after the first day. Player 3 plays 4 games and loses all 4 and concludes after 4 losses and says, you know, maybe this isn't for me. You know, I'm losing, and you know, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I know Jam said play 10 games per day, but you know, maybe I just don't have the skill, and so he stops after 4 games. Who do you think is most likely to succeed and get the results? out of those three players?
It's got to be the first player.
First player. Now, is he doing anything physically that the other two couldn't do? Meaning, does it take a special talent to click find battle 10 times?
No, it's just got a better mindset.
Right. The only difference in those two players is how they perceive events. First player goes, okay, a loss means I'll eventually get better. I'm not good enough yet. Player 2 concludes, my losses mean I'm not good enough. And player 3 concludes, well, they concluded the same thing, but he concluded it way earlier. And so, in life, that's really the biggest differentiator for the 1% and everybody else. When they take an L, or when things don't look like it's going the way they decide, most people go, well, I guess I just don't have the talent. Oh, I guess this isn't for me. Because when you lose, it feels bad, typically, when you get rejected, when whatever it is. Because the interpretation of that result is more important than the result itself. Right. It's not the result, it's the interpretation of the result. So if you're losing 5 games in a row and you start concluding, dang, you know, you're getting frustrated, you're angry, you're feeling disappointed, that's because you're interpreting those losses as something negative. These losses mean I'm not going to get where I want to go, which is not true if you know how to do the replay reviews, which is going to go more into the skill set component. But a lot of the guys that I've seen rapid success in, I always tackle the player component first. What raw material? Who is Levi? Right? Is Levi somebody where when he gets hit with an obstacle, he goes, man, I don't know if I can do this, man. I don't know if I'm good enough for this, and gets down, and then when he encounters the next obstacle, he goes, yeah, man, I don't know if, you know, and then the next loss, I quit, right? Or I need a break. That's a classic one in the game. Could be, I'm gonna take a break for the game, right? Really, all that is you're taking too many L's. It's fucking with your identity, right? Because now you're like, man, am I a loser? Am I not as good as I thought I was? It starts, self-doubt starts seeping in, frustration starts seeping in. And then you go, well, screw it, or I need to take a break, right? So that's 70%. That's the biggest reason people fail at Mons and at anything, frankly. Now, let's say that we have, like, let's say your mindset is sound, right? And we've had several conversations where we tweaked your mindset back in the day. So, you know, I'd assume that's not your biggest issue right now. I'd assert that this is where this is the level where a lot of your struggles are going to be, where the inconsistency is coming from. So while the mindset is important, it's not everything. You still have to know the skill set, and you still have to have the skill sets. And what skill sets represent are knowing the rules of the game and knowing how to use those rules to get the results you want more often than the opponent. And to put that in English, can you play the game better than them, right? Can you problem solve? Let's use Pokemon in particular. Can you problem solve better than the opponent? If you can problem solve better than the opponent, assuming no hacks, you win most of the time, if not all the time. If they problem solve better than you, meaning they use their team more effectively than you do, then they win. So it's really a question of, do you know how to use the team you have effectively? That's it. The last pillar, which is the vehicle or the avatar, represents, in Pokemon, I'll use the team, right? The team you're using. So the team does matter. Right? If it's a poor team, no matter how great your mindset is and no matter how good you are at the game, you might not win as often as you could because you're using a team of Weedle. So it does matter. Right. Now, before I get to the next step, this is usually the least important. The order of importance changes as we go up. That's why they're in percentages. So what a player tends to do, and this is, I'm not going to go into the reasons for this. What players tend to do is go, if there's an issue, I start here. It must be the team. If they get a good team, they're like, okay, it must be my skill. And the last thing they look at is their mindset, their player. But really how things tend to go is usually it's the other way around. When people aren't getting the results, it's typically their player, then their skill set, and lastly it's the team. It's very rarely the team first. Like, that's rarely the biggest issue. Now, it may be a factor, the team you're using may be shitty, but it's rarely the main thing that's causing a lack in results.
And that's very true, because like, I look up to people like Devon and Empo, and you see, or even yourself.
Yeah.
You know, there's the famous Shelmet game.
Right.
Like, you won a game with a Shelmet. It's like, throw that in instead of Weedle. It's like, you can look at it and go, you know, you're using mons that shouldn't be used in high level tournament play.
Right.
But that's 10% of it, and a good player that has the rest of it will make it work.
Bingo. And that game, I think the reason people enjoy that game was because it was versus ABR, who's a good player as well, right? And so I think that was Blunder kind of threw it out of proportion. And, back when I was more tour active, but yeah, and you know, it's funny because I had shout outs to Giuliano, he'll know himself, but funny, I was working with him, and he initially it was training him for BDSP, and he's fucking skyrocketed. Easily could have gotten #1 if he didn't have another project going on right now. #1 from bottom to #1 in probably 2 months. And he took the booth camp and all that. But yeah, so initially when he came, hadn't played Mons in years, maybe a decade competitively, came to me, and we're gonna jump into the 3 pillars afterwards, and then we'll wrap it up there, because that should solve this alone. Will solve, and then we'll tackle the game part. But to address that, you know, the initial team, he was like, man, you know, I don't know, this team, you know, got some results, but then plateaued at about 1,200, 1,300. Like, I don't know, maybe this team is the issue, blah, blah, blah. I was like, and I said this to Gaijin as well, right? The vehicle is rarely the issue, but that's the place people always want to address first. It's probably my team. I need to adjust my team. What about my team? I need a new team. The team. It's like, before the team matters, you need to have sound skill sets. You need to have a sound mindset. Doesn't matter what your team is most of the time, right? Again, we're not talking about extremes like Six Weedle, right? If you have a relatively decent team, that's usually not why you're losing. But the higher up you go, the more of a assault on your identity occurs. Meaning, if I say the issue is you as a person, that's something you're less willing to look at, because now that's painful. Whoa, my identity. What do you mean, Jam? You mean to say that I'm too impatient? I need to change who I am, character-wise? Yes. Oh, Jam, you mean to tell me that I get angry too easily and I need to change? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And so that part is very difficult for people to address. And so they avoid that the most, but it's the most impactful. And the beauty of it, and this is why I said this framework will actually transform the gaming community as a whole. The beauty of it is, let's say the player here, let's say that SD, and I mean, this actually occurred, but because the call, I don't want it to be super long, the video to be super long. I won't go into that. But let's say that SD, through playing Mons, has a way better mindset than when I initially met him. He started from reading the Mons book, started reading 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and it's just like he became just such a dope person. That's why I said he was the originator for actually all this, right? In talking with him, it dawned on me that the mindset component existed. I wasn't before. I used to think skill set and the vehicle was all that mattered. And in seeing SD's results, I had to say, like, whoa, I have hundreds of people messaging me, yet their results fluctuate. What accounts for the fluctuation? Like, why are people doing the same thing yet getting so many different outcomes? And we're not talking about talent. That would have evened itself out in the numbers. And so I had to start doing a deep study on this, and that's where I discovered these principles. So if SD hadn't done what he had done, we wouldn't be here either. So very important component. And so what happens when you get better at games, so let's say it wasn't mine, and let's say it was the gym, right? You're in the gym, you're fat, and you did a transformation, and you're like, now you're shredded. That change you had to go through was not just a bodily change, right? You had to rediscipline yourself. You had to develop a whole new brain mindset. That process you went through, the process of purification, that's all a game is, transformed you into a different person. So you're not the same person you were when you were fat, now that you have a six-pack, or whatever the outcome you wanted was. So because of that, the game altered your player, and now the player is altering the game. So it's actually cyclical. Now, the beauty of that is by leveraging Mons or any other game, whether it be Smash, whatever, you can actually change your player, and that impacts other games in your life. And you kind of went through this because during the pandemic, you had the initial parts, you had some hardships, and you can share that if you want. But because SD was like improving himself from Mons, and I couldn't express this, I couldn't explain this at the time, but now I understand what happened. Because he was improving his player, his mindset through Mons, it actually impacted other games, and he was better in other areas of his life. So let's say fitness was a game, let's say business or getting money, that's a game, right? And we'll just take Mons. The improvement in one game impacts the player, and the player is the one who impacts all the games. So you can actually literally use video games to improve your life, because you're altering this part of you. You're altering your brain. And when you alter your brain from, let's say you develop a really good mindset in Mons, you're not going to just, the alteration in your brain doesn't just disappear when you change the game. So let's say you said, okay, I'm going to stop playing Mons and now I'm going to start playing Smash. The positive mindset you have, losing is good, you win or you learn, all that stuff doesn't just disappear. So it actually translates. When you have a sales job, for example, where you're out and you're getting rejected day in, day out, rejection is good is now the motto. Like that plays out in every area of your life. And that's why people who are elite typically are elite. And I don't mean in this like you were born above humans or something like that, but people who are high performers in something, they're typically high performers in various areas of their life, because their mindset, their player is so sound. Am I making sense?
Yeah, that does make sense. Absolutely.
Do you have any questions? Anything that's not super clear?
It makes sense. I think, in terms of it translating to other games, I think it. I don't know. I've explained it before in another video that we did, or it might have been the podcast. I don't know if you still do it, but on your YouTube videos, you posted the mindset book by Carol Dweck.
Carol Dweck, yeah.
That's what kick-started everything. So I read that, and now like I've shared with a few people in the academy, like Theo, for example, is we've got lists of books like that I've read that have just completely changed pretty much how I live my life. Like just trying to be positive around people and not putting people down and giving encouragement and all the rest of it. I'll also say this too. One of my biggest things is what you were saying earlier. Was this is where I think I got a lot of growth. You were saying that people don't, or they find the player the hardest to change. Mainly, I think because people have, well, everyone's got an ego.
Yes.
How much they think of themselves. And when somebody is going to sort of take you down a notch, you sort of question, who are you to say that to me?
Yes.
I've got a funny story with Devon. I have to use this example. There was a time when, I can't remember who, and I can't remember how long ago this was, but somebody wasn't happy with how Devon would communicate with people when they played poorly. He was my manager at the time, and I've got screenshots of it, and it's hilarious. But essentially, I played a game in ADPL Season 1, and I quote, this is Devon, "Yeah, you won the game, but you choked on dicks. It's whatever." And I was like, shit, man, that's so hard to hear, But the thing that I learned was, and this is where it's really cool, is Devon wasn't saying it to put me down. He's using that to help me improve. And most people go, how? Like, that's insulting or whatever. But what happened was ADPL Season 3 just finished. And I sent... I was always in talks with Devon the whole time. I wouldn't share teams too much, obviously, because he's on a different team to me. But at the end of one of my games, he said, "You played that perfectly. You did everything that I would have done, and you got the result. Like, good on you." The thing to me is, Devon doesn't bullshit people. So I've seen in my journey, I've seen both sides. Devon will tell me when I've played like shit, and I need to hear it. And then there's other times when I know that Devon has said, "You played well," I know he's not bullshitting me. He's not just saying it to make me feel good. Like you were saying before, "Oh, you're impatient, you're this, you're that." People need to hear it, but they won't achieve much if they don't listen to it. But you also need people such as yourself, like coaches, mentors, tutors, whatever, that are actually going to not tell you what you want to hear. Like, I can be positive and tell you, yeah, like, "Oh, you played well, man. Like, just next time, pick it up and just practice, and losing is good," and all of that. It makes you feel good. But unless I'm going to, at times, if somebody wants honest feedback, it's like, like Devon said, "Yeah, you won. Like, good on you, but it's like, you choked on dicks too, man. Like, you got to fix that up." Like,
tighten up, right? Right.
Yeah, but it goes back to the like, I only see it now, but that's, for me, that's where I've come. And I didn't say it earlier, but what I find hilarious is when I first started playing Mons competitively, and I messaged you, I was 1100, and it took me 1700 to my goal. Sorry, my goal was 1700. It took me 10 days to get there. And then I was talking with Gajan and Devon, and I was like, my goal is to be top 100 in February. I made that goal on the 2nd of Feb, and I achieved it in 10 days. It's just, it goes, like, the mindset part is so strong. I can't stress that enough. So if you're actually focused and willing, and you're going to put the work in, and you're going to come up with a strategy, like don't just mindlessly like play. You've got to, like, for me it was, I was playing too many games. Like I said at the start.
Well, that's not a mindset issue. That's not a mindset issue.
No,
that's a different issue.
But it's the fact that when you want to apply yourself, and your mindset is that you can achieve it, instead of, nah, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to get top 100, it's taken me X amount of time, I'm going up and down, that's the issue.
Yes.
And it's when, sometimes you just need a reset and go, nah, I can do it, fresh month, fresh start, whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, I just wanted to put that in there, that like Devon, can't thank him enough for what he's done for me.
Yeah,
He's been amazing.
Yeah, that's we can ramble all day about just how many amazing people are in the academy. They already know how I feel, and I'm very, 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 very appreciative of all they do, and I'm sure because I'm saying this from a standpoint of just what they actually say. And whenever I say that, they're like, nah, dude, they're thanking you. But I do genuinely mean that, right? I think as it says, all ships rise with the tide, right? So it's like, as we pour into each other, all this couldn't have existed from just my efforts. So like, huge shout outs to them, and obviously they're the ones who, you wouldn't be a part of everything you're a part of now if you weren't who you were. So that
yeah, that's right.
But it's your player that people are paying attention to, because you can teach the skill set, but you can't. Only the person can alter their player. Nobody else can alter that, which is what you're referring to, right? That mindset of, well, yeah, but who are you to tell me? That's a mindset issue. I can't be.
Yeah, that's right.
I can't be talked to. I'm above criticism. Right. I'm above.
You need to seek to understand.
Seek to understand. Right. That's the.
That's right.
Right. And that's the whole point of that book. I mean, there are skills in there as well, but it's heavily the point of that book. But this breakdown is for anybody who's playing any game ever. Once you find out where the error lies, okay, am I having a vehicle issue? Am I having a skill set issue? Or am I having a player issue? And once you diagnose the issue, it's typically here, like this typically here, is this what drives most of your results? If you have very good mindset, then maybe you just lack the skills. And if you have the skills and the mindset, maybe you're just using the wrong method. But typically, as I said, it goes this way in order of importance. So, everything clear on that? That all made sense?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay, now we're gonna dive into the Mon stuff, which is a lot faster. And this is where we've been doing that part a lot longer, so it's just like this just doesn't take very long. So what do you think separates you from the top player?
It's a tough question.
It really isn't.
Because there's not a lot. Like, there's no reason why I can't be number one.
Yeah, but you're not. So there is a reason. You don't have something. You don't have some things. So what do you think you're lacking?
It would be, I'd say, consistency.
Consistency? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll explain to you what separates you and everybody else from the top players. It's the same thing. So Mons What's the purpose? Let's type this in. Pokemon. Purpose is to beat your opponent before they beat you. That's it. That's all we're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the next question is, we go down. How do we do that? All right. And how we do that is, okay. Given, there's variance. Now their hacks throws this off a bit, but overall, that's just typically right. So this is the purpose of mines, to beat your opponent before they beat you. That's all you're trying to do. And if you lose, it's because your opponent problem solved better than you. So if that's true, then that means the difference between you and the top players, they problem solve better than you. Now, next question is, okay, how can I improve my problem solving ability? And that's where the 3 pillars come in. I'll actually type it. This is what differentiates all players' problem solving ability: their level of knowledge. I'm sure you already know these, but for the audience,
Yeah.
right? Their level of skill, and their level of awareness. That's the difference between awareness. I think there's no either, but knowledge, skill, and awareness. That's the only difference between y'all. Now, some players have high knowledge, high skill, low awareness. That's typically people around 1800s-ish, around where you are. So if we were to have an in-depth session, this is likely the pillar you're lacking in. You probably have very low awareness or mid awareness. The degree to which this increases is the degree to where you hit elite. The stuff that you're describing, I don't even know how they know that. I don't understand that. You're describing likely awareness issues, and I've trained every type of player ever, from your OST winners, your smog, all of them. And this is usually the most difficult pillar for people to cultivate. Knowledge is usually the first one, right? This is the most fundamental pillar. You have to have knowledge of the metagame you're playing. You have to have a high degree of knowledge. Skill is the problem solving part. How do I solve this problem? What to do? And when do I do it? Skill. Then awareness is knowing what to do. Knowing that there's something that needs to be done, rather. Like, have you ever had a game where you're playing and you're about to get swept and you're like, damn it, I didn't realize I was weak to Volcarona or something. Or I didn't realize that I needed my Ferrothorn at full so I don't get swept by Gyarados. Or I didn't realize, it's not that you didn't have the knowledge. You had the knowledge. And you knew how to solve that issue. You just didn't see the problem to begin with until it was too late. That's an awareness issue. Am I making sense? Any questions so far?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That goes back to the roots.
And you must know these fundamentals clearly, soundly. It's clearly, soundly, like the back of your hand. Because these are all mods is. People think, oh, well, it's yes, there are nuances to everything. But if you don't have a fundamental grasp on these things, it doesn't matter what else you try to do. right? Oh, it's the team. No, it's not. Right. So this is going into the skill component, right? So all of this falls under the skill part of the Trinity. So this is not player stuff. Player stuff would be your mindset. Falls under skill. So speaking of skill, within that, and this is really the punchline, every player only has 3 things they can do, no matter how good they are. Meaning, the player who's at the bottom of the ladder, the player who just started, and the player who's been playing for 40 years can only do 3 things in every game. Oops. That's the only thing every Pokemon game consists of. So, every player, meaning the players you know that are better than you, and the players who are worse than you, that's all they got. So if that's true, what accounts for the difference? If y'all get the same moves. It's not like Call of Duty or you may have a different gun or a different positioning, or all of you guys get the same options. So if that's true, what accounts for the guy being number 1 versus the guy being at the bottom of the ladder?
It's the problem solving ability.
Yep. It's how the person at the top can attack, defend, and switch more effectively than you. That's it. That's it. That's the only difference between you and him. So if you want to become as good as the top player, what do you need to learn how to do?
Attack, defend, and switch more efficiently.
And to learn how to do that, what do you need to increase?
My awareness.
All 3. But just because of where you are on the ladder, I'm just diagnosing that it's an awareness problem. You still have to increase your skill. Your skill isn't capped. There's plenty you need to learn.
Yeah.
You still need to increase your knowledge. So you need to increase all 3. So the more these increase, the more this increases. That's your points wise, or your ability to do these well. So the top players do this at a very high level, have very high pillars, right? So they have high knowledge, high skill, high awareness. So they have high points. The players on the lower end have low knowledge, low skill, low awareness. So they have low points. When you're in the middle, bouncing up and down, it's because you're lacking in you have a blind spot somewhere here. Somewhere in one of these. You either have high knowledge, but your skill lacking. You may have mid-range skill, or low skill and low awareness. Or you have decent skill, low awareness. Or you have high skill, low awareness. Or you have high skill, decent awareness. Right? I can't diagnose that unless I see. Which is what, again, that's what people come to me for. As I mentioned to you when we were in the call. People come to me to save them time. Otherwise, you're going to be playing around. And this goes for anybody, right? So I recommend clicking the link in the description. I have a video series that helps people figure out which of these are your blind spots. Like it doesn't, obviously it's not the same as having me just see you play and see it, but like if you can't afford a session or something, then this is the next best thing. I want to make sure that I give out as much content as possible that can help. And so lastly, do you know the purpose of attacking, defending, and switching? What are you trying to achieve?
You're gonna try and take all the value from the other person.
Bingo. Well said. The point is to take all their value. So that's really all it is. This is all Mons is, in the most fundamental sense. Okay. My goal is to beat the opponent before they beat me. Okay. How? Okay. You have the knowledge, skill, the awareness to attack, defend, and switch to take all their value. That is all. This encompasses everything. Now, to figure out where you are, where the blind spot is, you have to figure out that. Where is the gap? Am I just not good at attacking? Am I just a poor defender? Is this just an awareness issue? Is it a skill issue? Da, 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 da. So does that all make sense? Are there any questions thus far?
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward, yeah.
Okay. Now, in your particular case, as I said, I'd have to actually watch you play to find out the specifics. That's why when I do the sessions, if anybody who's worked with me, the first thing I have a person do on the boot camp is play a game. And that's because I'm assessing, okay, they seem to have like a 4 out of 10 knowledge, 2 out of 10 skill, 1 out of 10 awareness. Like I'm assessing so that way we can, okay, I know what instructions and trainings they need to get to increase this. So and again, those who watch will identify who've gone through the boot camp know what I'm talking about. But for the first week, I may have you do nothing but play games. There isn't even any instruction. It's like play as many games as you can. There is no. Don't worry about a loss. Don't worry about a win. If you've been one of the past members that have gone through that particular training, that's because you had a very low knowledge base. So at that point, there is no point in working on your skill, because this comes first. And if you work on your skill when you have low knowledge, you're actually destroying that person's confidence, because they're not going to succeed because they lack the knowledge. Like they can't have the skill without the knowledge, because skill is just the applied knowledge. So if you're again a member that's gone through it, that's why we went through that. Or if I saw you have a mindset issue, I may have just said, just play 10 games a day and say, what did I learn? What did I do well? That's because I saw that your issue was in your player. Not necessarily, well, it could be a skill deficiency too, but that's the first layer we'll address. And I've had people, just from doing that, I remember one guy in particular, he came to me because he was tired of not having it getting respected within the community. And, he wanted respect, plain and simple. And I realized he had a very negative mindset towards his L's. And sorry, my phone vibrated, but very negative mindset towards his L's. And I had him do nothing but what did I learn, what did I do well for the whole 4 weeks. And he went from about 1,200 to 1,700. No skill training, no knowledge, none of this below here. Just from what did I learn, what did I do well. And that alone was his roadblock. But he thought he needed new skills. But he had a 500 point difference just from when he lost Heat Rage. 500 points. So that's pretty much the difference between you and every other player. Now, from seeing this, where do you think your deficiencies lie? You probably can't see it because it's a blind spot, but if you were to guess.
I think it would be 2 areas. So I feel like I can defend and switch quite well, but I don't take my shots when I can either.
Mm.
Apply pressure when I can is something that I struggle with. Like if I see an opening where, let's say, I've just used U-turn.
Mm-hmm.
Do I U-turn into a mon that might take 20% of damage but can get a kill,
Mm-hmm.
or do I move into a mon where he can't touch me?
You're in the defense house, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been promoted to head of the defense house.
Okay. I was just thinking, temperamentally, you sound like a defense house player. Like they'll think guard myself for first and foremost, and attack house players think risk getting hurt if I can get the attack off. Like it's just a risk ratio. So there's neither good or bad. Both are important. But it just, when you said that, I was like, might be in the defense house.
Yeah, I'm the head. Yeah, I think that's something I know I need to work on, and Devin's pointed that out to me.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also, like you said, there's an awareness there. I played a game recently on High Ladder,
mm-hmm.
and it came down to the fact that essentially all it was we had 1-1 left each. Both were in range of each other. He had a Weavile banded with Arshad,
mm-hmm.
and I had a Urshifu banded with Aquajet. And I ended up losing. But I look back on the replay, and it's almost like my opponent saw it before I did.
Mm.
That was his opening to win. That I can't touch Weavile if he keeps it in the back, and Weavile can just pick up kills.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time I worked it out, I had 2 mons left, and there was nothing I could do about it.
Right. That's a perfect example of awareness.
Yeah, and that's the high level part.
Yes.
It'd just be, I was so close, but he saw it before I did, and that's where I lost. But yeah, I feel like between those two is, I've already explained it. I don't need to go into it again. But
Okay, attacking and which are important, right? Because just from one tweaking in how you think about the game will literally change. Because I'm thinking, because Gaijin used to have this issue, like very defensive minded. And so one exercise, and I'd recommend that for you. So that's going to be the action step from this session. Now that we've actually identified a weak point, is go on in your next training sessions. You have to use the most balls to wall offensive team, like that you can conceive of, or that you can get access to, with almost no form of defense on there. And what that does is it balances you out, because now you don't have a choice. You don't have the defensive. Are you used to using balance or a bulkier build?
Yeah, I use bulky offense, and it's funny you say that, because in my training with Devon, he got me to build like 6 different hyper offensive teams and use nothing but hyper offense.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't recommend you build them. I'd recommend just picking one. Because if you don't use offense, it's unlikely you'll build a solid offensive team until you have some experience with that. So I'd recommend just finding an offensive team that's already pretty sound, because then what you don't want is the issue being the actual team, but you're attributing the losses to your skill, because that can be very problematic. Like, you want to make sure that we're assessing the correct problem. So if you go back to player game vehicle, if I'm trying to train you on a skill, I have to make sure your player and your vehicle are already sound, so we're actually addressing the problem at hand. If we're addressing a skill issue and then I give you a bad team too, I'm causing 2 problems. You're trying to work on your skill, but you also have a vehicle issue. So
Sure.
So the vehicle is the reason you're it's contributing. I wouldn't say it's the reason, it's contributing to your losses. And so you're like, man, my skill is my skill is the issue, but no, you're using a team of Weedle too. So let's take the team of Weedle out and give you a solid team that's been tested and proven to have success. That way we know it's not, when you're losing, it's not the team. So we can isolate the issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd recommend that you pick a already sound offensive team, plenty of them. That way it forces you to be out of that. It's going to punish you when you go into how can I protect myself versus how can I take value from the opponent.
Yeah.
And you likely experience a tanking in points, but you should know better by now not to get attached to your results.
Yeah, couldn't care less.
Right. I figured, but just wanted to mention that. Just like, oh no, I'm gonna drop out of 1800s. Probably, but over the long run, you need to balance that out. You need to balance these two out. Some players are the opposite, where they don't know how to defend, and they're too offensive minded. Right. Usually, people know how to switch. Somewhat. I mean, I think switching is based on which one of these you have a bias for. And you gave that good example. You said you U-turn. Do I go to something that is more defensive based, or do I go to something that's more offensive based? So typically switching is based on the person's bias to offense or defense. Once you get to mastery level, you know how to balance both.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send you a replay of an example of this, a very old replay, but I actually narrated it down, so that will account for the replay review that you wanted. But I knew, again, in-depth replay reviews take a while to really get value out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So there's just no way that was going to happen. But for your sake and the audience's sake, now you can diagnose yourself. At any time, every until you are the best player on earth, the reason you're not successful is because of your mindset, your skill set, or the vehicle. Within skill set, it's one of these. So let's say you're like, nah, Jam, my mindset is A1. It's perfect, for all intensive purposes. Then we go, okay, since your mindset is amazing, let's dive into skill set. And I'll likely do another video diving into the vehicle, which is more the team building aspect. Because I know a lot of people struggle with that. So team building has similar principles to this. As far as an action step, I'm going to suggest that you start using an offensive team. Play a minimum of 5 games per day. Or no, I'd say 3 games per day minimum. And thoroughly review the games. Because if you're playing 10 games a day, I know you can't be doing good reviews. Like, there's no way. Not as good as they're supposed to be. There's just no way. A good review can take an hour. There's no way in 10 games you're doing good reviews. So I'd recommend super offense and reducing your game numbers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course.
Any questions?
Reducing my game numbers was what got me there, 1800.
Okay.
Or got me to the top 10. So, but that's the thing, is it took me a month to work that out. I could have had a session with you and just told me that.
Hey, again, it's really just a time-saving tool, guys. That's all. When you invest in something, it's just investing so your time isn't. That's really what it is. If I get a coach, it's like, okay, I don't want to figure this out on my own. Take 2 years to figure out what he can tell me in 2 hours. So that's all a time thing. If you want to take the time to do it. There are video resources. I try to put out as much as possible. And I'm gonna be putting out more. This is something I'm hoping will save somebody some time if they don't have the money to invest. I want to make sure that there's a low barrier of entry for anybody wanting to be good at this. But there's no barrier. There's no replacement for the real thing, right? So, I'll do what I can so that we can have more SDs. Cause trust me, guys, if you saw how much he's grown since the messages on Discord, what, almost 2 years now. It's like I'm really happy to see how you've changed, not just as a player, but as a man, like as Levi.
Yeah, it's been a good journey.
Any final questions or thoughts? Anything that is like, okay, can I get a bit more clarity on this? Or a comment or anything that comes to mind?
So it's good to just rehash. I've read the book several times, and then it's gotten me to where I am, and it's just like, jam, how do I break the barrier from 87 to top 10 to number 1? And because you get up there, like when I got up there in no time at all. Like, it was ridiculous, but it's not hard to get up there, but you still think when you're on a ladder. I found that I wasn't worried about losing my points, but it's almost like I was like, shit, we're in the big dogs now. Like, it's just a sort of, it wasn't like, I'll say this, it wasn't enough for me to go, oh, I'm scared of playing and losing my points. It was more, how do you say, like, when people fear things, they go, they shrivel up, or like the natural thing is to go, oh shit. Whereas I was more like, my body was telling me, this is it. Like, this is where you got to put it all in, and you got to, like, everything that like, focus, slow everything down. And I actually played better. I found. But yeah, it's just the consistency for me. And I think what you were saying is quite right, is I can defend if I want to against anybody. I think that's fine. But the goal is to take all their value. And if I can't attack well, if I can't find those openings, like, I'm sure if I watch replays of those games or send you replays, you'll find you could have won.
Yes.
You just did this.
Yes.
And I can't see that for myself.
Right.
Yet.
Blind spot.
So that's good for me. I'm gonna go back to the board, and you will see me at number 1 before the end of the year.
Okay, no doubt. If you're smart about it. Yeah, that's A1. And as I said, and to the audience as we wrap up, ultimately, the people think it's a new technique that I need to, some undiscovered technique. The deeper your knowledge of a metagame, the more vast your problem-solving ability. The deeper your awareness, the better do you attack, you defend, and you switch. The better a player you are. It's not a million different things. It's going deeper on the 3 pillars. Going deeper on the 3 actions. It's the fundamentals that make people the best. Not, oh, now I need this new gimmicky team that if you want to do that for fun, sure. But at the GOATs, right? They have a deep, even if they can't articulate it like I did, right? Like, I've actually had to learn how to do this because I train people. So you have to be able to provide the language that they can pinpoint, oh, that's the issue. But all great players possess these abilities, just didn't have the language for it at the time. And the better SD gets said, okay, my knowledge can get better. Okay, skill can get better, awareness can get better. Then he's going to start attacking, switching, and defending better. He's going to start taking other people's value better. And inevitably, if you start doing all that, can't not be the best. or one of. It's impossible. Impossible. It's just a process. You stick to that. And that goes for everybody watching. It's impossible not to get what you want. So hopefully that was helpful to everybody who watched. Any closing remarks on your end?
Yeah, just appreciate your time, and yeah, shout outs to everybody in the academy, for everyone in PT. Appreciate all your help, and the society as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know who you are.
Mm-hmm. Facts. All right, y'all. Thanks for watching. Hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts if you were confused about anything. If you wanted me to expand a bit, because I didn't expand on everything, right? I could have gone more in detail about awareness, or in detail about skills. More, I can break each of these down even further, but that would be a fucking course. So, for the sake of keeping this consumable, I kept it pretty broad, but in depth enough to where it makes sense, and you have action steps that you can think of and use. So yeah, hit the like button. Let me know your thoughts, please. I'd like to hear what made sense, what wasn't clear, all that, so we can improve on this. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.